My name is Emily Carter. This morning, as I sipped my coffee by the tall glass window of my office in San Francisco, I caught sight of a familiar logo on a shipment document lying across my polished oak desk. A cargo container headed to London, filled with the produce from my farm that once drew nothing but laughter and pity. The irony almost made me laugh. Years ago, people mocked me, called me the farmer girl with dirt under her nails, like it was the worst insult they could throw. But now, their very supermarkets proudly display my company's name. The soft rustle of my silk blouse brushed against my arm as I reached for my phone. A notification blinked, a message request on social media. The sender? Jessica Morgan, my former classmate, the one who laughed the loudest at me in high school when I showed up in muddy boots after helping my dad with the fields. Her message was short, but it hit me like a spark to dry hay. Emily, is it true? Are you the owner of Greenbloom Exports? We buy from you here in the UK. I can't believe it. My lips curled into the faintest smile. Oh, I believed it. Because I had lived every backbreaking, sleepless, tear-soaked moment of a journey that brought me here. And suddenly, the memories came rushing back. Every sneer, every dismissal, every night I swore I'd prove them wrong. I wasn't always the woman who signed international trade contracts in glass towers. Back then, I was just Emily Carter, the farmer's daughter from a small town in Iowa. I still remember standing in the dusty hallway of Ridgefield High, clutching my biology textbook, when Jessica and her friends blocked my way. "Did you wash your hands, Emily?" she smirked, scrunching up her nose dramatically. "Or did you bring the cow's smell with you again?" Their laughter rang through the corridor. My cheeks burned hot, but I forced myself not to cry. Crying only gave them more reason to mock me. Instead, I gripped the straps of my worn-out backpack tighter, feeling my nails dig into my palms. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my dad. He was exhausted, his hands cracked and rough from work, but his voice carried strength. "Emily," he said softly, "don't ever be ashamed of where you come from. The soil feeds people. What they mock today, they'll need tomorrow." I swallowed hard, blinking away tears. His words etched themselves deep inside me. A week later, everything changed. During a school project presentation, I proudly shared plans for a sustainable greenhouse. I thought it was brilliant. Instead, Jessica raised her hand and sneered. "So you're planning to grow weeds and call it a career? That's cute." The class erupted in laughter. Even the teacher's smile was tinged with pity. That was the moment. My throat felt tight, my hands trembled, but inside I knew I couldn't spend my life shrinking under their laughter. I would prove them wrong, not by running away from my roots, but by building something greater from them. In my dresser drawer, I kept a small silver bracelet my grandmother had given me before she passed away. On the inside, engraved in tiny letters, were the words, "Grow, no matter where you're planted." That night, as the house slept, I slipped the bracelet on my wrist, stood in front of the mirror, and whispered to myself, "One day, they'll remember my name." I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I knew that was the first day I chose independence. College wasn't an option for me right away. My family barely scraped by, and after my father's health declined, it was me and Mom keeping the farm alive. Many people expected me to quit, sell the land, and find something normal. But every time I felt tempted to give in, I touched the silver bracelet on my wrist. That little engraving, "Grow, no matter where you're planted," became my mantra. I spent late nights at the public library, poring over books about crop science, sustainable irrigation, and business management. I taught myself how to code just enough to build a simple website for selling fresh produce online. During the day, I shoveled, planted, and harvested with dirt crusting under my nails. At night, I was a student of everything I could get my hands on. It wasn't glamorous. I can still remember the sting of blisters on my palms, the way my back ached after bending over rows of vegetables, and the bone-deep exhaustion that settled into me like a permanent shadow. But every order that came through my tiny website felt like proof that the dream was alive. My first big break came unexpectedly. A woman named Linda Hayes, who ran a farm-to-table restaurant in Chicago, stumbled across my website. She called me personally. Emily Carter? I don't know who you are, but your tomatoes are unlike anything I've tasted. Can you supply me regularly? I almost dropped the phone. That order was the beginning of everything. From there, word spread. Linda introduced me to other chefs. I invested every cent I earned into upgrading equipment, hiring 2 farm hands, and experimenting with organic certifications. Slowly but surely, my little farm transformed into green bloom produce. But here's the thing, I never flaunted my progress. When old classmates asked how I was doing, I'd shrug and say, "Oh, just busy with the farm." I didn't post glamorous updates or brag about my clients. Let them believe I was still struggling in muddy boots. I preferred working quietly, letting my results speak later. There were setbacks, of course. Shipments spoiled, storms destroyed crops, and sometimes I lay awake at night staring at the ceiling, terrified that I was building a house of cards that could collapse any moment. But then I'd remember my dad's words, "What they mock today, they'll need tomorrow." By my mid-20s, Green Bloom was no longer just a farm. It was a brand. Contracts with hotels, restaurants, and eventually international buyers stacked on my desk. The girl they once mocked for smelling like cows now signed export deals stamped with government approval. And all the while, the bracelet stayed on my wrist, a quiet reminder of who I was and who I was becoming. It was a warm Thursday morning when the past finally walked into my present. I was in my San Francisco office, a corner suite on the 17th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. Sunlight spilled across the room, reflecting off framed certificates, photographs of lush green fields, and a painting of Iowa cornfields I'd bought as a tribute to my roots. That's when my assistant, Mark, stepped in. "Emily, you've got visitors," he said, raising an eyebrow. "They say they know you from back home." I already had a suspicion. And when the door opened, there they were, Jessica Morgan, her polished smile just a little too tight, and beside her, 2 other classmates I hadn't seen since high school. For a moment, no one spoke. Their eyes darted across the office, the leather chairs, the mahogany desk, the subtle yet undeniable markers of success. Jessica finally broke the silence. "Wow, Emily, this is yours." I folded my hands calmly on the desk, the silver bracelet glinting under the light. "Yes. Welcome to Green Bloom Exports headquarters." Their mouths fell open. "You mean," one of them stammered, "the Green Bloom that supplies to London markets, to Hilton hotels, that Green Bloom?" I leaned back, offering the faintest smile. "The very same." For a beat, the room was silent except for the distant hum of traffic outside. I let them take it all in, the photos of me standing beside international clients, the framed article from Forbes Women in Business, the award for sustainable agriculture pinned proudly on the wall. Jessica's carefully maintained composure cracked. I had no idea. Back in school, we thought you were, well," she trailed off. I finished her sentence for her, my voice calm but steady. "The farmer girl with dirt under her nails?" Her cheeks flushed crimson. "Yes," I said softly but firmly. "That was me. The same girl you laughed at for smelling like soil is now the woman exporting fresh produce to your country." Her lips parted, but no words came out. I stood, walking toward the large map on the wall. Tiny pins marked every country Green Bloom shipped to: Canada, Japan, the UAE, Germany, and yes, the United Kingdom. I traced my finger across the Atlantic. Funny how life works, isn't it? You mocked the farm that raised me. And now your supermarkets proudly sell my products. Your children may even grow up eating the same tomatoes you once called cow food. One of her friends whispered, "This is unbelievable." I turned back to them, my heels clicking softly against the polished floor. "It's very believable, because every insult, every laugh, every moment of shame you try to give me, I turned into fuel." The silence was heavy, thick with the weight of years. I could see guilt flickering across Jessica's face, but also something else: admiration, maybe even envy. Finally, she swallowed hard. "Emily, I'm sorry. We were cruel. We didn't understand." I nodded slowly, studying her carefully. Part of me wanted to relish the apology, to let her sit longer in her discomfort. But another part of me, the part that had grown through the soil and storms, knew this was my moment of closure. You don't have to apologize, I said gently. Because if you hadn't mocked me, maybe I wouldn't have worked this hard. Maybe I wouldn't have built this. Their silence told me everything. They weren't just surprised. They were humbled. And for the first time in years, I felt the scales balance. Jessica sat down slowly, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. The other two classmates shifted uncomfortably, their expensive handbags clutched tight, as if that could protect them from the truth of what they were seeing. For years, they had owned the narrative. I was the farm girl, the one beneath them. But now, here they were, in my office, asking me questions with a nervous edge in their voices. The power shift was almost palpable. Jessica finally whispered, "Emily, do you think we could ever work with you? I mean, if we connected you with some of our contacts in London, maybe we could." I raised my hand gently, cutting her off. Let's pause there. My voice was calm, but it carried weight. If I were the Emily you knew back in high school, I'd jump at the chance. But today, I choose who I let in. And I don't make decisions lightly. Their eyes widened. I walked to the window, gazing out at the ships in the harbor, loaded with containers, my containers, headed across the ocean. If you want to be part of what I've built, there are conditions. I turned back toward them, meeting their eyes one by one. To you, Jessica, stop measuring people by the shine of their shoes or the dirt under their nails. Use your voice to uplift instead of tear down. You've got influence, but it's wasted if it only spreads cruelty. She blinked, stunned. Then I faced the second woman, Hannah, who had once laughed at me for bringing home-packed lunches. You always wanted to be a fashion designer. I remember how you sketched in your notebooks. Yet you gave up and settled for a corporate job you hated because it was safer. My condition for you? Go back to designing. Create something real. Don't bury your dream just to fit in. Her lips parted, tears brimming in her eyes. And then the third, Rachel, who had once mocked me during prom for not affording a dress as glamorous as hers. You've spent your life chasing status, Rachel. But status, without purpose, is empty. If you want my respect, find work that matters. Volunteer. Mentor. Give back in ways that don't earn likes on Instagram, but actually change lives. The room was silent. My words hung in the air like the final notes of a song, impossible to ignore. I don't need your partnerships, I said softly. I don't need your approval. But if you want a place in my world now, it's not going to be as critics. It's going to be as people willing to grow, just like I did. Jessica swallowed hard. You're asking us to change who we are. I tilted my head. No. I'm asking you to become who you were always meant to be. For once, none of them argued. The days after their visit felt strangely lighter, as if some invisible knot had finally loosened inside me. I never expected them to change overnight, but slowly, signs appeared. Jessica sent me an email a month later, an article she'd written for her company's newsletter about the dignity of honest work. She credited me for inspiring it. Hannah mailed me a sketchbook filled with new designs, bold, vibrant, unapologetically hers. In her note, she wrote, "I'd forgotten how much joy this gave me. Thank you for reminding me." And Rachel? She posted a photo, not of a luxury handbag or a vacation, but of her volunteering at a children's food bank. No hashtags. No filters. Just her, smiling, hair messy, sleeves rolled up. For the first time, I didn't feel anger toward them anymore. Only closure. One evening, I sat alone in my farmhouse kitchen. Yes, I still kept a home in Iowa, right next to the fields where it all began. The wooden table was the same one my dad used to rest his tired arms on after a long day. I traced the silver bracelet around my wrist, the engraving still clear after all these years. Grow. No matter where you're planted. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one with trembling hands and a lump in her throat, laughed at for daring to dream beyond her small-town labels. That girl didn't disappear. She grew. She fought. She became me. The farm they mocked became the empire that feeds nations. And as I looked out at the golden fields stretching beneath the sunset, I smiled softly, whispering the words I knew would echo as the final truth of my story. They mocked my farm. Now I export to their country.